Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to the Entertainment Plaza in Review with your host, future Hall of Famer Moses Plaza, Master Chief Andy DeJesus, Scott Marshall the author Gylan Brown, the one they call Smoothie Angel Rivera, and from youtube.com/psychosics Bryan Plaza. This is the Entertainment Plaza in Review. What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Entertainment Plaza in Review. Today, we are going to review the long-awaited Thor, Love, and Thunder. I'm your host, Moses Plaza, along with my host, Angel Rivera, a.k.a. Smoothie. What's going on?
Another day in paradise.
Yeah, I feel you, man. And my brother from another mother, a.k.a. Bryan Plaza. What's up, man?
Nothing much. I'm excited to get this going.
Yeah, me too, man. So, we watched this movie Thursday night. We were pretty hype about it. And I don't know, man, like just looking at everybody's faces that night, I was just thinking to myself, was it mixed reviews? For
Right.
me, I was smiling from ear to ear the whole time. But before we get to your thoughts, let me give you a little bit of facts about the movie. It was released on June 23rd. I'm sorry, July 8th, 2022. Had a runtime of 119 minutes and a budget of $250 million. Now, on Thursday night alone, it did 77.6 million. So they're almost, I'd say, about a third of the way from the budget already. They're projected to do almost 300 million over the weekend alone. So, it's kind of crazy that they're going to beat their budget in one weekend, but that's Marvel. That's the Marvel Cinematic Universe for you. So, obviously, it stars Chris Hemsworth, Tessa Thompson, and Natalie Portman as Valkyrie, Mighty Thor, and Thor himself. It was written and directed by Taika Waititi, which he's actually one of my favorite directors right now. He does a lot of funny action comedy and very subtle comedy, what I like. And the music was by in my opinion, the GOAT, Michael Giacchino. He does a lot of the music for a lot of the Marvel movies. He did it for Planet of the Apes, so on and so forth. But with that being said, I'm going to start with Bryan. How did you feel about this movie? A quick synopsis of how you felt about it.
Well, without giving anything away, I really, really liked the movie. It was funny. It was action packed. Everything about it. It grabbed my attention every step of the way. There wasn't a part where I felt like I was bored or like I was gonna fall asleep. The entire time I was, you know, interested. I was watching. I was like, what's gonna happen next? What punchlines are coming next? Who's gonna do what? I was really excited watching it. I actually got a couple chills at some points with the music and stuff like that. So I really, really liked it.
Angel, how'd you feel?
Uh, I agree with everything he said. Same thing. We went to see this at a 6 o'clock
Yeah.
viewing time, right after work. I was a little concerned about that because I was tired. I'm like, oh god, now we got to go watch this movie. I hope I'm able to stay up, but nah. Once the movie started, wide awake. Um, Great action. You know, funny. So keeps you on your heels.
Yeah, I agree 100% with both of you. That is one of my biggest fears is coming right out of work. We used to work together. You used to be my boss, so you know how it is
Yeah.
working in 90-degree weather. Actually, Brian's working there now
Yeah.
too, but
There you go.
it's working outside almost all day. I'm just like, man, this is gonna feel so good in this theater. It's gonna be nice and cool,
Yeah.
and it didn't happen. I was awake the whole time. Unlike Batman, where 2/3 in the movie, I'm just like, oh my goodness, I am fighting
Yawning.
sleep, and it was tough.
Kept
This
drinking my
thing,
coke.
yeah, yeah, this thing literally from beginning to end, I was in it. I mean, the music had you hype, the comedy was funny, and every 10 minutes you had the goats yelling, so it was like, or crying or
I was
whatever
just
it
making
was.
a phone.
Yeah, but yeah, it was great. I mean, from literally from beginning to end, it was just action packed and comedy all along. Um, but with that being said, I'm glad we're all kind of on the same page. Bryan, I'm gonna start with you. You want to give some of your like positive reactions, some of your highlights of the movie, and then we'll move on to Angel and myself.
Yeah, so definitely some of the positives for me. I'm a huge mythology fan, whether it be, Greek, Roman, stuff like that. Um it was really, really interesting when I found so many of the gods gathered in one spot because I was able to pick out who was who almost right away.
That's
I was
awesome.
like, oh, this is this person, this is that person. And without giving anything away for later on, there are a couple, one or two that you see that you might not expect to see at the end of the
Right.
movie, which I was really interested. That sets it up for me personally. That sets it up for the next movie. What's going to happen? Um, like I said, with the action and everything, those were just the great focal points. The movie started off strong. The movie ended strong. There wasn't a single point where it lagged the entire time. It was consistent. You didn't have to worry about what was going to happen next. None of that stuff. You were just always, eyes on the entire time. I really loved it.
Yeah. Angel, how about you? Some of the highlights of the movie.
Yeah, I would definitely have to agree with him. I mean, and I feel like a lot of that has to do with the casting. I think they did a great job with the casting.
100%.
Uh, yeah, I mean, the fact, like you said, like as soon as someone would pop up, you knew who they were.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because but yeah, I mean, like I said in the intro, there it was great action. The comedy, I mean, don't get me wrong, I was laughing through the whole movie. It was funny, but there was a couple of times where I'm like, okay, like maybe it's a little bit too much, but in in hindsight, like I guess it wasn't. I guess while I was there, I was like, okay,
Yeah.
it was giving a lot of like Deadpool, uh,
Definitely.
Galaxy kind of vibes. You know what I mean? And I get it; it all ties in. You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, it's they did a wonderful job with this one.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the highlight for me was definitely the comedy. I'm a huge fan of Taika Waititi and his comedy because it's subtle. It's not like that where you have to be so extravagant to get your joke out. And it's like little jabs here and there, little
Right,
stupid things that they say that if you're not
like
listening
that joke.
closely, yeah, yeah, exactly. It really does feel a lot like dad jokes. But if you're not listening closely, you miss it. But then there was some of that comedy like the goats,
Yeah,
at, at first, and we are going to get into a little bit of spoilers here, but uh, Thor he acquires some goats. We're not going to tell you how just yet, but and they're kind of like his pets now, and then they become his almost like his horses carrying the carriage. In this
Valiant
case,
Steeds.
yeah, his steeds. In this case, it's his ship. But at first when they were just yelling that goat meme where the goats just yelling like crazy, um, it was funny as hell, right? So then halfway in the movie you're like, oh man, this is kind of old. But then they just for some reason they just keep doing it in different ways. And I'm dying every time. And I'm just like, all right, now this is comedic genius in
perfect.
my yeah, this is
Yeah,
comedic genius in my opinion. And but yeah, so that the comedy I would say is probably one of my biggest highlights. And then like you said, Angel, the casting. I mean, my goodness, Natalie Portman. Thank goodness she's
right.
back because I mean she played a hell of a mighty Thor. Um, what's his name? Chris Pratt. The Guardians. I mean, I'm okay with the Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm glad they just had a small part in the
Right.
movie.
Little,
You know,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
In the beginning, they didn't. It wasn't like a buddy comedy with them. It was more so of a this is where one of the I forget which movie it was where Thor was just floating in space and they found him. It's kind of like all right, there he was with them and we're done. But
yeah.
yeah, that was cool. The casting, Christian Bale, my goodness, Gore, Christian Bale's Gore. Like at first,
God, yeah.
I was afraid of like, all right, is he going to really play the part well or not? It was perfect. Like as
Yeah.
much as this was a comedy, there were some scenes there where I'm like, dude, this is like I'm
Very
getting a little
dark,
some
very
chills.
dark.
Yeah, I'm getting some chills.
Yeah.
It felt a lot like a horror movie. So, um, yeah, 100% with what's her face coming back, Jane Foster's assistant. I forget her name, um, but she was in the movie. You know who I'm talking about? She was in what's the Vision? WandaVision. She was in WandaVision.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
but she was in it for
So,
a little bit when Jane Foster and spoiler alert, she's getting chemo. If you've read any of the comic books, this follows the comic books pretty closely. So a lot of
Yeah.
people were already expecting that. Not that I'm a comic book aficionado, but doing some research, we saw that. But yeah, man. From beginning to end, dude, this it's definitely one of my biggest highlights is just the comedy, and then just the casting of this movie was top notch. But um, moving on to something you felt they could have done better, or that like a negative response you had to it, Brian.
Honestly, I don't feel like I had any negative feelings toward the movie. Like I said, as I was watching through, I was enticed the entire time. Um, I don't think anything was did wrong in my opinion. I feel like the sceneries, and the galaxies that they had ventured and stuff like that, did seem like it tied in perfectly with the circumstances in the movie. Like there was a reason this was there was a reason that was there,
Right.
all that kind of stuff. It didn't seem like anything was out of place, even with Natalie as her Mighty Thor character. I feel like she fit in there perfectly.
Yeah.
How they
Agreed.
brought her up, and all that other stuff. First, maybe I did kind of think the way she came about was weird because it wasn't explained right
Right.
away. But then they went ahead and they tied it all in somewhere in the middle of the movie, and it made sense. I was like, oh, this is why that had happened. I understand now, and then it just kept flowing with it. So personally, I don't think I had any negative feelings towards it. Overall, like I said, I just think it was a really good movie.
Yeah. How about you, Angel? Anything you felt they could have done
Yeah.
better, or negative thoughts on it?
No, I mean, at first, like when I got home, my wife asked me, she's like, "What you think?" I was like, it was good. I just wish they would have held back a little bit on the comedy. But then, like, as the hours went by, and I'm like thinking about the movie, and like, I'm like, no, I was like, no, that was perfect.
Yeah.
Like, because it like you said earlier, it all just fit in perfect. The So no, honestly, I think they did an amazing job. I don't see any negatives in it.
Yeah, I think I don't have any negatives necessarily. I do feel like Brian said my biggest thing was Jane Foster becoming Mighty Thor. Like, yes, they did
Yeah.
explain it somewhere in the middle where they did kind of a flashback of that we've never seen in any other movie of Thor and Jane Foster and how their relationship went. They were falling in love, they were living together, watching movies, and then Jane was sleeping and Thor was talking to Mjolnir. It's not
Yep.
Mjolnir. It's not Mjolnir. It's
Yep.
Mjolnir.
Mjolnir.
And he's like, you need to promise me to. First of all, let me side plot the whole like narrative of him of Mjolnir being his ex, and
Yeah.
what's the axe? What's the axe's name?
Stormbreaker.
Stormbreaker being his new like
Stormbreaker.
yeah his new
Yeah.
relationship. That was hilarious. Like that
Yeah.
Yeah.
it felt like a really good Saturday Night Live skit. Like if this is something
Right.
it
Yeah.
was amazing. But anyways, when he had Mjolnir in the beginning, he's like, you need to promise me to always take care of Jane, no matter what. And Mjolnir kind of flashes a little bit, like saying, "Yeah, I
Yep.
got you, bro." So I understand why she was able to yield Mjolnir and she's worthy and all that, but
Yep.
I wish they would have showed more as to how she became Mighty Thor. Like I get it, like there was a part when she was in her office and the book kind of shook a little bit, and then it's like, oh wait, let
Yeah.
me go read this book and see why I'm all of a sudden attracted to reading this book. And then when she was in New Asgard, and you know she was looking at Mjolnir all broken up, and it kind of shook. But then the next time we saw her, she was already Mighty Thor and fighting and all that. I feel like there was something missing in between there, you know, where they should have showed her, initially getting Mjolnir and then, kind of training or becoming Mighty Thor. And we missed a lot of that. I feel like that would have taken this movie to a whole nother level, in my opinion. I mean, to me, look, I mean, not to jump ahead, it's damn near close to a 10, for me, as far as the Thor movie goes. But if they
Right.
would have just kind of fleshed that out a little bit more as to how she became, I mean, we know how she became Mighty Thor, but just the process that she had to go through, it could have been just a 10-minute scene, something in between there. That would have been great. Maybe we get it in the, Blu-ray, but who knows?
I
Yeah.
think I think I think what I mean. what I would do with that is they can make a whole nother movie from,
True.
maybe they didn't want to explain too much on there, or
That is
give
very
too
true.
much out, because they can literally, go back to this movie when a certain scene where she gets called to it and
Right.
it was moving around for her. It's just kind of like they could start the movie off right there, and how she, you know, was able to yield it, and then they go forward from there.
Yeah, you might be right.
Yeah,
That's the, go ahead, Brian. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
yeah. Sorry, I feel like it could have gone two ways. The first way, um, the way they did it initially, I felt like it kind of left the audience room for imagination.
Yeah.
How,
True.
just kind of think about, how she became, because I think she only, the Valkyrie had said that it was like her second time as Mighty Thor.
Okay.
Um, when they met up with Thor for the initial battle. Now, as to making like a second movie, I feel like if they brought in a transformation sequence in the first time where after we see Mjolnir start to rumble a bit and kind of accept her as the worthy one,
Yeah.
the aspects of lightning would kind of, bestow the power upon her, like
Okay.
tornado and
Yeah.
lightning comes down and stuff like that. For the second movie aspect, I feel like it would be a little bit hard given her circumstance. She had a very, very small but long portion in the movie, if you get what I mean. She was
Hmm.
Mighty Thor for um, a small amount of time, but her impact on the movie was great.
Oh yeah, it was amazing.
As for a second movie, I feel like they would have to do an origin where they again show, her relationship with Thor, then her relationship with Mjolnir, how she became to be the mighty Thor, and then ultimately her demise. I don't feel like it would be a very long movie, maybe an hour at most, but I feel like some of that stuff would have already been covered or
Yeah.
hinted at in this movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if they'll do another movie just of Mighty Thor. They might, because I mean, Chris Hemsworth is going to play Thor, but for so long. You know what I mean? They
Right.
did say Thor is returning at the end. After the
Yes.
credits and all that, Thor is returning. Now, does that mean that Chris Hemsworth as Thor is returning? Because he did mention that he wants to at least be in another movie as a cameo at some point, only so that he can beat Robert Downey Jr.'s amount of cameos he's been in Marvel movies. Because Robert Downey Jr. has the record right now for the amount of cameos as Iron Man.
Right.
Right.
No, I'm sorry, not Robert Downey. Is it? No, it was Wolverine. Hugh Jackman has the record.
Oh,
So
okay.
he wants to be in at least one more movie as a cameo or standalone to have that record. Um, so we'll probably see that. But are they alluding to maybe Mighty Thor is returning? Is she
Right.
going to have her own story? Like, at the end of the day, again, going into a little bit of a spoiler, um, Jane Foster goes to Valhalla, right? So,
Yeah.
um, you know what? Let me real quick. If you're listening to this right now, whether it's in podcast version, YouTube, or live, we are going to go into spoiler country right from here on out. So, we've been on almost 20 minutes. We gave you our thoughts on how great it is and what we thought about it. From here on out, there are going to be spoilers. So, maybe pause it, go watch the movie, come back and finish. But
Yeah.
you had your warning. All right. So, you know, like as we all know, Jane Foster died. She had cancer. Um, Mjolnir helped her live longer, but also kind of took energy away from her. It also
Like
like
the Black Panther, yeah.
right. So expedited the process, unfortunately. So at the end, the only way to get into Valhalla is to die as a Viking or as an Asgardian in battle. That's the only way you can get into
Yeah.
Valhalla. Which is why the one girl in the beginning who was like, "No, let me die here. I want to get into Valhalla." He's like, "Well, you technically are still
Yeah.
alive and you didn't die in
Yeah,
battle.
he didn't die in
Yeah,
battle. Yeah.
maybe your arm's in Valhalla because she was missing an arm. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?" So Jane Foster gets into Valhalla at the end. So my question is, she's clearly after the end credits they show her in Valhalla or whatever after she passes away. Do you think somehow she comes back because I mean it's freaking comic books, They can literally do anything. And then she has her standalone movie as Mighty Thor fighting some other type of enemy. Because I don't feel
Right.
like they'll do an origin story because we know her origin. We know that
Right.
she's just Dr. Jane Foster. She met Thor in Thor 1, and then we know why she became Mighty Thor. But and what do you think? I mean, that's kind of like my feeling about it. She'll
Yeah,
eventually come back.
yeah, they could again. It's comics and it's a movie, so they could twist it around,
Right.
and we're gonna eat it up anyhow they do it. So,
Right.
um, but I definitely feel like the way with the end credit there, there's gonna be more to it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I
I
agree.
mean, I feel the way that if she were to come back, the way that they would do it is how Gore brought back his child through eternity.
Oh,
Thor would then
yeah.
once again, given his love for Jane, would try to reach eternity and bring her back. Gore brought back his daughter, and Thor at the moment is fostering her. She is becoming the next. Actually, you know what? Now that I say that, she's wielding Stormbreaker at the end of the movie, and they
Um,
said that Thor will return.
yeah.
So there could be a chance that he's training her to be the next Thor,
Thor. Yeah.
perchance, because he's now wielding Broken Mjolnir,
Yeah.
and she's able to pick up Stormbreaker on top of the power she already has. So I feel like it could go kind of both ways in that kind of aspect. Now that I was, thinking back on it, that kind of jumped into my mind. But
Yeah. So I don't know if you guys knew this, but the little kid who's running when they show the Thor transition, that's actually Thor's son. And somebody told me that, and I don't know if it's true. I gotta look it up. That the girl who's Love, that's supposedly that's his daughter, but I don't know how true that is. As
mm,
far as but yeah, I don't know. I am excited. I feel like Thor right now. Another fun fact. That's the first movie. He's the first one to get 4 movies out of all like the major characters: Captain America, Iron Man. Thor's the first one to get his fourth full length movie. So that was pretty cool and well deserved because I mean Thor 1 was good. Thor 2 was trash. Ragnarok probably my favorite movie out of all the MCU movies, and then now this one, it's up there too. But yeah, I mean, I definitely am excited to see them come back. One thing too that I forgot to mention was I wish they would have done more with Korg. I
yeah,
know he was in a lot of it, but his comedy in Ragnarok was like one of my favorite things. And then this one, it was cool and it was fun, but I feel like they could have done a little bit more with it, and plot twist.
It was like
Oh, go ahead.
almost in the background,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly,
like
exactly.
they really didn't use it much.
Yeah. Um, so where do you put Gore? He one of the plot line is after the death of his daughter, which her name is Love, and his pleas for help are ignored by his god, which his name was Rapu. Gore is called to the god-killing weapon, the Necro Sword, and he uses it to kill his god Rapu, vowing to kill all gods. So Gore, where do you put him as far as a villain in the MCU? I know there's a ton. I mean, I can't remember most of them, but
Yeah.
it's up there. I think, in my opinion, we have Thanos. We have, uh, sheesh. I mean, there's so many, but I know Thanos is probably the top of the villains. How do you feel about Gore and Christian Bale's portrayal of him?
I
I
feel
think
like. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, I just feel like he did an amazing job. Like, and there were scenes that he was sad and crying, and you almost felt that emotion. Like, man, like you really got into where he was
Yeah,
feeling. And then there was on the flip side of that, completely angry, almost like a demonized person, if you want to call it that. And it was like, oh shoot, like so he played both sides of the quarter there, and he did an amazing job.
Yeah, I feel like he was his portrayal as Gore made him one of the best villains, um, but for a short amount of time. If
right.
you think about it, he's a god slayer. And not many villains in the MCU universe are god slayers. I mean, he literally went and killed like 4 or 5 gods before he even went and fought Thor for an actual battle.
That's true.
Now, given the Necro Sword and his vengeance, it was double bladed. It was, it kind of sucked, and I wish he could have been a longer villain, but the circumstances he was given is the Necrosword slowly kills its owner. So
Yeah.
eventually he would have died. So he was a great villain, and whether or not Thor would have killed him or not, he would have died either before he reached his goal or after he reached his goal. And he was one of the most short-lived villains in my opinion. He lasted one movie. We're probably never gonna see him again. Um, right after he reached eternity, that was the end of him. He died in his daughter's arms. The Necro Sword is gone. It was broken into pieces by Mjolnir. So that's probably the end of the Necro Sword and Gore. So
Yeah, one of the trivia and fun facts was that Christian Bale had initially turned down the possibility of appearing in any more comic book or superhero films after The Dark Knight Rises. Obviously, he played Batman. Seeing the genre as uninteresting from an acting perspective, and especially finding the experience of donning the Batman costume to be a miserable one. He agreed to take part in this film, however, after his kids begged him to take the role. So we have Christian Bale's kids, to thank for, him being Gore. Um, but yeah, man, that's freaking crazy. Also, the movie has 5 Oscar winners in it. Christian Bale, Matt Damon. Yes, we'll talk about him again. He's back in it. Natalie Portman, Taika Waititi, and Russell Crowe, all Oscar winners in this one movie, and 2 Oscar nominees, Bradley Cooper and Melissa McCarthy. And yes, Melissa McCarthy's in this. So let's talk about that scene. They're showing us New Asgard. New Asgard now is like a tourist destination. There's cruise ships there. There's people. They had an ice cream shop called I forget what it was. They had the
it had Thanos' gauntlet
yeah,
on
they had
there.
his gauntlet and everything was half off.
Yeah,
Because half the
yeah.
people were half the people were disappeared at one point. But so they had the little play, and Matt Damon was Loki. I believe Liam Hemsworth, which is Chris Hemsworth's brother in real life, was Thor, if I'm not mistaken. And I forget who was playing their father. I forget who that was, but that
Yeah, I'm not
scene to me
familiar.
was freaking hilarious. They had Mjolnir, a replica Mjolnir, come through, and just on a string, on a very visible string, this thing's just floating
Yeah,
in the air, like, "Oh, bring my Mjolnir here." And then they're like, "Where's my sister?" And they rip through this little, really raggedy
portal.
looking set, and it's freaking
Yeah,
Melissa McCarthy as Hella. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
yep.
she grabs Mjolnir. And I thought that whole thing was absolutely hilarious. And then, at the end, um, they're all taking their bow, and for some reason, which I didn't see him before, Melissa McCarthy's husband was in that line taking a bow. Like, I feel he's in almost every movie that she's in one way or another. So somehow they
Yeah.
managed to get him in there, and he didn't even have much of a part. So I thought that was freaking hilarious. Matt Damon, I can't really see it. One thing, like, he was like, "Hey Matt, you want to be in the new Thor movie?" And I don't think he hesitated much. It was probably like a text message saying, "Hey, you want to be in it?" "Yep, I'm in." So, and then later in the movie, all the kids get kidnapped because Gore goes to and attacks New Asgard because he's looking for Thor, God of Thunder, and
Hmm.
all the kids get kidnapped, and Matt Damon's like, should we start the set? Should we start making the set for this, a new play? And they're like, she just, King Valkyrie just walks away. And the one guy says, well, she didn't say no. And he's like, she sure didn't. Let's get started. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
oh man,
yep.
that was so funny in my opinion. But uh, anything else you guys want to bring up? I mean, I know we haven't talked much. I can go into a couple more plot spoilers, um, for the
The
movie.
one thing I found interesting was that Natalie Portman, she's only 5'3".
Really?
Chris is
Holy
6'3".
crap.
So the fact that they made her, I mean, obviously she's shorter than him in the movie, but
Yeah,
not
it's
by much.
a foot shorter.
hmm Like that just shows you the amazing job they did with the movie. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. I didn't realize she was only 5'3".
Yeah.
That's nuts.
Jesus.
I know that that's a lot like the Tom Cruise situation. Like in almost every movie he's in, they put him on like platforms so he looks taller because almost
Right.
all his love interests in every movie are taller than him. So they had to do this the other way around. But damn, 5'3". Yeah, I'm actually looking at some of the trailers right now, and they're definitely only about 4 or 5 inches shorter than the others. So, but so let's talk about Omnipotent City, where Zeus, that whole scene was freaking amazing. And honestly, I'm a little upset because I did not give Marvel or Disney permission to use my body double on Thor. So yeah, I need to
Yeah.
have a little talk with them. But so they arrived to Omnipotent City because obviously, Gore's out there killing all kind of gods. Um, Omnipotent City, there, that's where Zeus is, and there's all these other gods like Bryan was talking about earlier, and we even see the god from some anime, the dumpling god or some shit like that, which was pretty funny.
Oh, Bow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Bao.
God
Yeah,
Bow.
yeah, yeah. So but anyways, they're asking Zeus for help, and it's Russell Crowe. So initially, I'm like, oh man, in the trailers, there's like Russell Crowe looks kind of like weird and stuff like that. But man, let me tell you, that again, another highlight of the movie. The way his accent was freaking hilarious. You
Yeah.
when you think of Zeus, playing God of War or reading about the lore of the Greek gods, you don't think of him as the way that Russell Crowe portrayed him. But
Not at all.
that joint was funny. And then, the way he walked down the step, he kind of curtsied, held his little dress up, and he
Yeah,
just
his
like,
little.
that
Yeah.
was hilarious. So, they get to Omnipotent City and they start, they get Zeus mad. And Zeus is like, you know what? You're not coming to my orgy. That's it. No orgy
Yeah.
for you. So apparently, they had an orgy set up. Um, and that's when they use my body double. Unfortunately for me, they tie up Chris Hemsworth or Thor, and he's like, you know what? With the flick of a wrist, boom. And he's like, you flick too hard, damn it. You- and all the
Yeah.
all the women pass out, which that's I don't know about you guys. I'm used to that myself, so
Yeah. Of
you
course. Of
know.
course.
Um, but yeah, man. So that was another great scene. Eventually, they start fighting Zeus, and they win. Zeus first of all puts the lightning bolt through Korg, and we think, oh damn, Korg is dead. But we soon find out that the only part of Korg that's actually um, part of his
Alive.
part of his biology is his face, and that's all he needs to live. So they
Right.
find him there, and he becomes Valkyrie's his eyes, in the back of her head. um, Zeus then tries to hit Thor with the same lightning bolt. Thor catches it. I thought that was a dope ass scene and throws it back as Zeus hits him. They win, and they escape or whatever. But that was such a good scene. The whole thing just it was very dramatic and you know flashy, and even with Zeus, twirling his lightning bolt and stuff like that. I thought that was pretty cool. One thing that
Yeah.
says,
About Chris,
go ahead.
I know he said that he was during COVID.
Yeah,
He was locked up at the house, and that's when he was training to, get his body right for this movie. He said that that's all he did. He wasn't allowed to go anywhere because of COVID. So he said he was in the best shape. He's in for him to say the best shape of his life.
yeah,
That's different from like you and I saying that. But
yeah. You ain't lying.
he he said for this movie he was literally in the best shape of his life,
Yeah, one of the
and that's
fun
all he.
facts I have here says Chris Hemsworth, on his eighth time playing the character of Thor, achieved his biggest physique ever for this film, getting up to 231 pounds, literally of pure muscle for the role. His longtime trainer, Luke Zocchi, said he is in phenomenal shape. He's the biggest he has ever been. He's the heaviest he's ever been. And this extent of musculature required Hemsworth to eat at least 8 times a day during the entire duration of filming just to maintain all the muscle mass he had acquired. crazy thing is that I eat about 10 times a day, and I'm nowhere near that. It's like I just don't get it, bro. Like, what am I doing wrong?
It affects us differently.
Yeah, you ain't lying, but um, yeah, man, that's it's crazy how it's probably a lot easier for them, millionaires feeding millionaires. So,
Well,
um,
they get paid to look that good.
right.
Unfortunately, we
I mean,
Yeah.
we got to talk about Natalie Portman, the shape she got in. I mean,
yeah.
everybody said it through the trailers. I mean, her arms were like, sheesh. It's like, my
Yeah.
goodness, she got built for that.
She was saying that it was actually like refreshing for her because she's used to for certain roles, they always want the women to be, skinny or
Right.
petite and uh, fragile looking,
Yeah.
But it was very refreshing for her that for this role was the complete opposite. She was like, I can eat all day, I could do whatever I want, eat, drink, and work out, and all I had to worry about was getting bigger.
Right.
She's like, she's never done that in her life.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, it definitely worked. And then, we can't not talk about how she looked when she was sick. Unfortunately, that probably could be disturbing for a lot of people. But
Yeah,
it was they did a great job, and she did a great job, if not even better, when she was sick, and she's very weak with cancer, and it was very believable. You know what I mean? So
100%.
yeah, but yeah, one of the things, again, going back to Omnipotent City, reading here off of the plot, the group travels to Omnipotent City to warn the gods and ask for their help. The Olympian god Zeus is unwilling to help, and as Thor's captured and forcing the group to fight off Zeus's men. Zeus injures Korg in anger. Thor impales Zeus with his thunderbolt, and Valkyrie then, she steals the thunderbolt during their escape. Then they travel to the Shadow Realm to save the children. The Shadow Realm. First, that's probably one of my favorite scenes in a movie in a very long time. And it wasn't just the scene, but that whole, time they were in the Shadow Realm was black and white. And then you get the subtle hints of color, like when Mighty Thor, she lights up Mjolnir, and you get a
Yeah.
little bit of color when the Thunderbolt is shining. And I'm like, dude, this is like, it was so dope to me the way they did that in the Shadow Realm. First of all, the goats crash into the Shadow Realm, and that was another time when
And,
yeah, you don't expect it. The little planet that they're on, or whatever, I don't know if it was an asteroid or a planet, was
right.
literally like, I don't even know how to explain it. It was like walking on a ball because it was so small. Um, but yeah, I mean, I thought that part was probably one of my favorite, albeit the whole movie was great. Was probably one of my favorite parts of the movie when they were in the Shadow Realm, fighting against Gore and stuff like that. How'd you guys feel about that part, Brian?
It was good. I liked it, and I feel like they did a really good job on how they made it look because um the planet looked a lot larger than what it really was, and then all of a sudden the goats go headfirst into it. And you're like, "Oh, wait a minute. They're not going onto an actual
Right.
planet. They're on this ball." And these goats probably just broke their necks on this ball.
Yo,
So
it was so funny.
it was funny because I was shocked. I was like, "Oh, they're gonna land in a planet," and then all of a sudden you just see dust, and everybody's like going, "What the heck?" and all this other stuff. It was funny. The whole atmosphere of the place, like you said, how they brought in the subtle color and all that other stuff. It was great. Yeah, yeah. It's the goats.
That's great.
That's perfect.
Oh man. Um, but yeah, with the color and all that other stuff, they really did a good job of just bringing it home. They made the Shadow Realm literally what it was from when they were traveling to the beautiful dolphins that mate every single day
Yeah.
of their lives
Right.
to then all of a sudden no color. It just the transitions and everything. It was great. It was beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, the when you would think that once that scene started in my head, I'm like, all right, this is gonna be probably filmed all dark and gritty, and you're not really gonna see what's happening. You're gonna see people flying around and whatnot. But no, it was weird. It was like the blacks and the grays was just like
yeah.
just perfect. everything was just perfect. And then, like you said, when there was light, like in the scenes, it was the way that they filmed it. That it was, I don't know, it was just something like I've never seen before. You know, with having like black and white and color at the same time.
Yeah, I've
They
never
you know,
seen it in a movie like you said. The only time I've ever
right,
seen something like that is like on my phone. You can take a picture in black and white and then choose what you want to
right.
have color. And I was like, oh, that looks dope. But in a movie like this, I mean, that was such a great, decision to do in this movie.
Hmm.
And honestly, I honestly cannot wait to watch this movie again. Um,
Heck yeah.
I don't know if I'll watch it again in theaters, but this is definitely a day one buy, like I did with Spider Man No Way Home and watching it at home. But
Yeah.
that was
I,
another like Brian said when they were on the ship and Thor was talking to Mjolnir saying, "Oh, hey buddy, this and that." And at this point Stormbreaker is kind of guiding the ship, so Stormbreaker shakes the ship and he's like, "Oh, sorry, I don't mean that. I'm just catching up with an old friend." And then he goes over there. It's like, "Hey Stormbreaker, I miss you, buddy. How are
Yeah,
you?"
he's fondling him.
Yeah, fondling him and stuff like that. And it's like again another great, it felt like a SNL skit. So I really loved that part. Um, but yeah, so they travel to the Shadow Realm to save the children. However, this turned out to be what Gore actually wanted them to do because Gore needed Stormbreaker to um, to use it on the Bifrost to enter eternity. And once he reached eternity, Gore could have the one wish, and everybody's thinking his wish is going to be to kill all gods. So they go there, they're fighting Gore. Um, Gore eventually wins because he stabs Valkyrie. Um, Thor says, he asks Stormbreaker, "Hey, get us out of here." Opens the portal, and as they're flying out into the portal, Gore grabs Stormbreaker, and they all leave, but he still has Stormbreaker. So now he has the weapon he needs to open the Bifrost. Um, at this point, Jane Foster, she used Mjolnir again, so that's again draining more of her life away. She's in the hospital. Thor's in there, and another funny thing was when he broke the vending machine, and he's like, "Oh, I don't get
yeah.
it, man. You guys have these refrigerators without doors, but I figured it out and gave her like mad snacks and stuff." um, but he Thor at this point asks her, and again, I really like the fact that this movie it's super comedic, but they're able to find the emotional parts of this. I'm like, damn, yo, if it wasn't here with my boys right now, I'd probably shed a tear. You know what I mean? I ain't trying to be called a biatch or anything, but so
Yeah.
he's like, you can't use Mjolnir no more because if you use it one more time, you're probably going to die. And he kind of he's like, it's your choice, but I need you to do this for us so we can figure this out together. Um, he leaves her in the hospital. He goes back to the Shadow Realm to find the children and fight Gore. He's getting his ass beat, and lo and behold, obviously, Jane Foster, the mighty Thor, shows up and she starts helping him. And at the end of the fight, well, first of all, let's talk about the kid scene. Who wants to start about this with this scene when Thor gives the kids his power?
Yeah, that
That
was a
was
pretty awesome scene there. I
Yeah,
mean, they were all kind of like, wait, we can't fight. You know what I mean? Like we're
right.
little kids. And it's like, just go pick something up. You know what I mean? He
Yeah,
tells all the kids to go grab something as a weapon. Yeah, and then he just. It's funny when I guess you can call it like a spell. He gives him like a
yeah,
spell almost to take over to have the same powers he has, but then he makes sure to add at the end there for a little time though,
yeah.
not like
Right.
forever.
yeah, that scene actually had a lot of symbolism. And in Norse mythology, what ended up happening was in the book and the very beginning of the movie, when it shook and Jane Foster went over and started reading on Mjolnir, there was a golden emblem on the book. That
Mm,
emblem is called the Tree of Life. Now, later on in the movie, when Thor shares his power, he was the root and the kids were the branches as the lightning went off and it shared his power and it gave you the tree of life.
right.
So to me personally, I was a really dope scene. And then of course the way that the kids were using the powers and the little girl who didn't even grab a weapon. She used her bunny
Yeah.
and was
Yeah.
literally just shooting lasers out from
Oh
it.
man, that was
It was
great.
hilarious. I loved it.
Yeah, so another one. I'm glad you brought up the Tree of Life. One of the fun facts says Thor's vest has the image of the tree-like structure formed from 9 orbs, and this is a stylish rendering of the world tree. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. It's YGG, and then it says Drassel. In Norse,
Yggdrasil.
okay, in Norse mythology, the depiction of the cosmos and its 9 realms. So yeah, you're absolutely right when it came to that. But yeah, this whole part was amazing. Heimdall, his son, is part of the movie. Everybody's thinking, all right, well, how can we bring Heimdall back? He died a couple movies ago. Sorry, allergies. Um, and They had his son there, and he was kind of like the one that Thor was communicating with as they were trapped in this cage. Um, but yeah, he gives them all the his powers, and they're just like, I mean, they're all little Thors just jacking up these, shadow realm, creatures. And I thought that part, I mean, it was super dope. But um, yeah, they end up defeating Gore. Jane Foster, the mighty Thor, she kind of, she shatters um, the Necro Sword. All the pieces go on Mjolnir. She shatters Mjolnir, and then that's that. Um, at this point, Gore still manages to get into eternity, and he has the chance. They're all in like this little white room, which I thought it was okay. You could tell it was kind of like green screen room with a little bit of water on the bottom, whatever. But you know, now he literally has a choice to make and say, hey, I can either make this wish that I was going to come in doing the whole time, and that's to kill everybody or kill all gods. But he sees Jane Foster there, pretty much dying from cancer. He sees Thor, and Jane Foster, they, Gore admitted defeat. It says here, Thor and Jane convinces Gore that all he wanted from eternity was not to destroy the gods, but to get his daughter, which her name is Love, back. It says Foster succumbs to her illness and dies in Thor's arms, and eternity allows Gore's request to revive Love, whom he asks Thor to take care of before he dies from the effects of the Necrosword. It says the children return to New Asgard, where Valkyrie and Sif begin training them. Meanwhile, Thor, now in possession of Mjolnir, again continues to go on adventures to help people. And with Love, he does promise to take care of Love, and that was actually a pretty dope scene at the end too, where he's making her pancakes and um, eggs or I don't know what it was, and he's like,
Yeah.
"Yep, you need to put your boots on." And I don't know I forget exactly what she said, but it was one of the funniest things. Like, "Go to hell, you evil demon!" And then she shoots out the lasers, and
Yeah.
he blocks it with the pan he was
With the
using to make the
pen.
eggs. He's like, "I just bought this," But
Yep.
yeah, so that's why the movie's called Thor: Love and Thunder, which I initially thought was because of the love he had for Jane Foster, but it wasn't. It's because his daughter now is her name's Love. So,
Right.
um, but yeah, Love is like you said is now wielding Stormbreaker. He has Mjolnir. But um, you know, eh, man, I don't know what else to say about this movie that hasn't already been said. It was a great movie. I really wish they could find a way to bring Gore back. I don't know how, and also would he be a villain at this point? Because he kind
Because
of,
he has his heart is healed now.
yeah, so to speak, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
So, um, but yeah, that's pretty much how the movie ends. Let's talk about the two end credit scenes. There's a mid credit and an end credit. Like Bryan said, he didn't want to spoil it earlier, but if you want to go ahead and talk about that.
Yeah. So in the mid-credit scene, what ends up happening is Zeus isn't dead. Um, his thunderbolt got sent through him when they were in Omnipotent City. Everybody thought Zeus was dead. At the end, it comes out that he's not. He's talking to someone, and I kind of had the thoughts of who it was, and my thoughts were confirmed when I saw it was his son Hercules. Hercules is a demigod, born obviously half human, half god, and it seems as if the next movie Hercules might actually be the villain because Zeus was telling him that it's not over, all this other stuff. and that he needs to get like vengeance and whatever. And Hercules was like, yes, father. And then he shows his weapons, his clubs, and then it moves on. I was really hyped to see that Hercules was in the movie. I didn't think that they were gonna even hint at demigods since it was literally just nothing but gods. Um, I was hyped to see it. His cameo, Hercules' cameo in the movie was welcomed, in my opinion,
Yeah.
because of everything that was there with the Norse mythology, the Indian gods, the like everything. They were from all over, so it really just kind of brought the realm of gods together, in my opinion.
Yeah, that was I thought that was pretty cool too that we have Hercules and now it's like, all right, what's gonna happen with Hercules now? And I guess there will be another Thor movie with that because it did
Yeah.
say Thor will be back and my question is it Mighty Thor or is it Chris Hemsworth? I hope it's both because honestly I think their chemistry, in the movie is great. So then the end credit scene, I don't know, Angel, if you want to talk about that one.
Yeah, I mean, it was first of all having to wait. I don't know how long did we have to
Dude, that
wait
was
to
like
actually see that?
13 minutes, 15 minutes.
Yeah,
Oh my god! Like I was ready. I was ready to go. Like
Yeah.
I'm like, all right,
Yep.
ridiculous. Like, but anyways, yeah. So they show Jane going to. She died as a warrior, so
Right.
she technically didn't die. She went to the next phase in life, and she at first you could tell she was kind of like surprised. She's kind of like, wait, where am I at? You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And so it kind of hit her like, oh wait, I died as a warrior, fighting. So, um, yeah,
Sorry,
and
man. I had to.
yeah, I feel like that right there just shows they didn't have to show us that. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I feel like by them showing us that, it's kind of like there's more to it.
Yeah.
Like there's definitely going to be more to it. I mean, there has to be because
Yeah, I
why
agree.
else would they show us? Because she could have just we just thought she died because she had cancer and
Right.
she was she was going to die as a normal human. But them showing us that's just kind of like letting us know that there's going to be more to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. There has to be more with her, because I honestly don't feel like Natalie Portman has been in much lately. So,
Yeah,
she could be, the new Thor. She could be having her own standalone movie or one with Chris Hemsworth. But yeah, I mean, it was cool. I'm glad they did do that so that we have something to look forward to. Heimdall was there, which again we haven't seen Idris Elba as Heimdall in a while. I thought his wig looked horrible, but that was just me. But yeah, so Jane Foster made it to Valhalla, and Heimdall was there to greet her, and that was after waiting 20 minutes, that was the last credit scene. So, but
yeah.
yeah, man, to end this, Brian, Angel, and myself, what do you give this movie out of 10? Now it ain't peace yet. What, you giving it a 4?
I'm giving it a awesome double double. So what's that? 8.
So what's your yeah, 8 out of 10? That's your
Yeah, I give it like an 8, 8.5.
okay,
It's up there. It's really up there. I don't think it was perfect, but it's
right?
definitely good.
Yeah. How about you, Angel?
I'm gonna go with the 9. I'm
Yeah,
gonna go with a 9 on this. I mean, like I said, the only thing when I left the movies that night, I thought it was like it just reminded me too much of like Guardian of the Galaxy, stuff like that.
yeah,
But then I'm like, nah, that was perfect. Like
right.
that was perfect. So
Yeah.
I'll give it a
So
9.
for me, I loved it. Thor Ragnarok, I still like better. And if I have to give Thor Ragnarok a 10 out of 10 as far as MCU movies go, I'm
Yeah.
giving this a 9.827
Yeah.
because it's damn near close, but I ain't like it as much. I also give it 2 goats up. You know what I mean? So in case you guys ain't hear this before, 2 goats up, man. So, but yeah, man, that's it for our review, man. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It was a great movie, but
Yep. Definitely
unfortunately,
go watch it. If you
yeah,
haven't seen it yet, go watch it.
definitely.
Heck yeah.
And again, unfortunately, Master Chief Andy DeJesus wasn't able to be here with us. Neither was Scott Marshall, the author, Guyland Brown. But that's all right. Before we sign off, remember, give us a like on YouTube. more importantly, subscribe. Oh yeah, Brian got the can. So did I. Oh, you did too,
Yeah, I
right?
got.
Yeah, they're pretty
Yeah,
dope. Subscribe on YouTube, like on YouTube, share. That really goes a long way for us as far as people discovering us. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google, Stitcher, make sure to give us a rating. 5 out of 5 really helps. You can also leave a comment on most of those podcast services. Again, that goes a long way for people to find us. But with that being said, follow our social medias. There's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. That's at the Entertainment Plaza. So uh, with that being said, I'm Moses for Angel and Brian. Thanks again for tuning in.
for watching. Thanks for
Yes,
listening. We
sir.
appreciate
Heck yeah.
Peace.